Hi, my friends. Welcome to the She's Rooted Life podcast. I am Talia, and if you're watching this on YouTube, yes, I am recording right after episode 8. Same hair, same makeup, same shirt. It's all the things. I'm batch recording because I'm intentionally going to be entering a deep state of rest as we close out this year and slide into the new one. I'm envisioning naps and eggnog and card games and a lot of margin right now. So, also, my son is 8 now, and it's been so much fun. Like, I loved him as a baby. Like, all of my babies were ridiculously cute. But teaching him solitaire, making up card games, and playing nerds together has been an incredible joy. And I don't know if you even know any of those card games, but we're so close. And I just bought a full nerds kit on Amazon. So I'm ready for it to come in, and I'm expectant about how much we're going to use it. So this week's episode is special in a lot of ways, you guys. It is episode 9. And it's the last solo episode for at least the next 4 episodes. So I'm going to go into spending some time writing and maybe even like batch recording some podcast episodes. Next week is episode 10, and it's our surprise. And I think you're going to love it. I think it's going to be amazing. And last week's resource, A Rooted Reflection, is kind of a sneak peek, as well as a rooted rhythm resource that we have for this week's episode. This episode is about moving into the new year with release and with surrender and with aligned action, I like to say. It's about dreaming, not from trauma responses, overworking, overfunctioning, or striving, but about living a life with Jesus, not just for him, but with him, and from an overflow of life with him. So much of what we call productivity is actually survival. And Jesus invites us into something different, into rest, into presence, and into becoming. And this episode is titled New Wine Seasons, Learning the Rhythm of Joy and Peace. And it's also connected to our second She's Rooted Life resource, which we'll walk through together at the end. Okay, friends, new, all new things. So in Isaiah, God says, "Do you not perceive the new thing I am doing?" And here's the thing about new: it requires a system of old out. And when we step out of old patterns, old coping strategies, old relational dynamics, and old ways of functioning that no longer align with who God is forming us to be, growth is required and expansion is required. And sometimes, if the people around us are not ready to grow or expand, then that new might not be warmly received. I think about Jesus's parable in Luke 5 when he talks about new wine and new wineskins, and you can't pour new wine into old wineskins because the wineskin has adapted to the old, so it can't stretch anymore. And that parable was all about the law and Jesus fulfilling it. And that scripture actually says that when new wine is poured into that old wineskin, it actually makes that wineskin burst. And so you think about when there is a change in dynamics and we're trying to pour a new version of us into old wineskins, when we start to notice like, okay, things are shifting and I actually want something different in my life and the way that I live my life, we want peace and we want joy and freedom and wholeness. When we stop shrinking and when we step into the new creation that Jesus died and resurrected to give us, every dynamic changes. And this is the hard part, is that sometimes others aren't ready to grow and they might want that old version of you back. And I share this often, that I have come out of a season where a lot of my closer relationships were not rooted in love, but in insecure attachment patterns. And this was even like with my husband. I had begun to have conversations of growth, and I didn't always do it that perfectly. Oftentimes, when we are walking into newness, the more healed version of ourselves later realizes, probably could have said that differently. Or, okay, that was definitely fear that was motivating that conversation. But here's what I want you to hear, that even if it doesn't land well, that doesn't mean that you don't stop walking forward. And one of the things that I am so grateful for is a deep desire that the Lord has put in my heart for authenticity and growth and freedom. And authenticity meaning I am showing up as I currently am. Like, I am wanting to grow. I don't want to be the same person I am today, five months from now, or 6 months from now, or a year from now. And the relationships that I do have in my life are securely attached and have brought deep healing in my life. And I'm really grateful for that. This past year has felt like a cocoon season, and not isolation. Again, I had core people, but like a stripping, a letting go of trauma responses, of the fawning, of the shrinking, of the overextending. And what the Lord formed in me instead was rest, a deep knowing that I don't have to try this hard to be loved or to belong. I've learned a new way to do relationships and a new way to show up as who God has made me to be. The right people stay. The right people don't need to be chased. And this applies to any relationship. And my values are no longer like aspirations, they are lived. And when we're rooted in Christ, we are like a tree planted by streams of water. We become steady and anchored and unshakable. And this doesn't happen overnight. Like in episode 8, we talked about going back to go forward and how necessary this is for new seasons. God creates in us a clean heart and a right spirit and a secure identity as his child. And that comes from space. It comes from margin, not from striving, but from being. And so as we enter into this new year, I want to invite you into reflection, not a form of trying to create goals and to trying to become this superstar version of yourself, but into rhythms and asking, Lord, who are you drawing me toward? What are you inviting me into? And what rhythms will form me into who you designed me to be. Okay. And with that, we are going to go into our second She's Rooted Life resource. This one is created to help you reflect, release, and dream with God, rooted, grounded, and open to the new he is already doing. And so I have the resource pulled up now. This is Rooted Rhythms, Moving in a Cadence of Joy and Peace, a She's Rooted Life resource. Okay. An invitation to dream. If you could dream with me for a moment, close your eyes and imagine a life rooted in love, moving in joy and peace. A life marked by freedom and ease, not euphoric, head in the clouds, but from deep groundedness. Because when we are attached to Jesus, he truly does the heavy lifting. A life where heaven meets you in the midst of the ordinary moments, and where you are continually inviting heaven into your lived experience. This is the good life, the life of abundance Jesus speaks about. It may feel unfamiliar now, but it is real and it is yours to enter. And Rooted Rhythms 2.0 will be even more grounded. But today, this is where you begin. A life where joy and peace are your baseline, not just the exception. And the Lord is glad to be with you. He sees you and his face lights up. His heart toward you is tenderness and delight. You are made in the image of God, designed for relationship with him, and called to express his glory in your own unique way, neurotypical or neurodivergent. Your design is intentional. Your identity is child of God. The first edition of this resource provides the foundation for forming rhythms that honor the unique life that the Lord has for you, rooted in love and lived with joy and peace. And so that is our invitation. And I start with some foundations, especially if this is going to be shared with people who maybe are not familiar with some of our episodes, of definitions of joy and quieting and peace and appreciation. So joy, again, is that experience that we have when we are glad to be with someone else. It's a high energy experience that we experience, and it involves people's faces lighting up to see you and to be with you, and you experiencing the same thing. And this is what the Lord designed for us to live at, is in joy. And oftentimes before we can get to joy, we experience quieting. And quieting is, like what I say in this resource, a deep exhale. It is the release of tension and the permission to rest. Quieting is intentionally unproductive, and it is stillness without striving, and it invites us to simply be. So when we quiet, a lot of times we just want to take a deep breath and to ground ourselves and just to be able to release any tension that we might be feeling in our bodies. And then peace is the settling of the body and the soul. So even if we are not physically still, there is a deep internal awareness that all is held, that the Lord has it all in the palm of his hand. And we don't even need to know how or why, because peace truly does pass understanding. There is a quiet knowing, it's okay, God's got this. And then there's appreciation. And appreciation is more than just saying thank you. It's actually the practice of savoring and soaking up an experience. And this is why we can have all of the things, but if we don't have the skill of appreciation, because this is a skill to be able to savor the moment and to savor what we have, we will never be satisfied. And so appreciation is imperative for a life well lived and enjoyed. It is being fully present with a person or experience or in a moment of time, capturing it with all of our senses. Appreciation allows delight to linger, and it slows us down enough to notice the goodness that we already have. And then create and play. Like, we were made in the image of God to create. And creation is not about like the output that we have. It's all about play and expression and delight. And when we create, we participate in God's nature. We remember that joy and beauty and imagination are not extras. They are sacred, because it is from our godlikeness that we get to create and we get to play. And so rhythms with joy and peace, that's the next section. And I share about how joy, you guys, it's very interesting because like I have this theory that joy is seen as like a thing that's far off. Like sometimes we'll have joy or eventually, or it's the cherry on top experience. And maybe that it's something that's like childish or it's not needed, or like a personality type, like it's a bubbly personality type. But joy is actually a profound expression of spiritual maturity. Like experiencing joy in the presence of others when your face lights up in connection is a reflection of the fullness of the Holy Spirit dwelling within someone. And joy is relational, it's grounded, and it's alive, allowing you to fully inhabit the present moment and appreciate the life that God has given. And then peace is practiced through quieting. And this is a quote that I pulled from The 4 Habits of Joy-Filled People from Marcus Warren and Chris Corsi. They write a quote for Dr. Jim Wilder that being able to enter a state of appreciation for 5 consecutive minutes, 2 to 3 times a day for 30 days can change the chemistry of your brain. So joy becomes your new normal instead of fear. And our brains are designed for survival. So we have to train our brains. We have to, I think of Romans 12 and how it says that we are to be transformed by the renewing of our mind, and how important it is for us to actually train our brain to focus on the good and to focus on appreciation. Like this is something that we actively have to do. We don't stumble into appreciation or quieting. We actually have to practice this, and it's a discipline. And the rest of this resource offers practices to grow in appreciation, joy, and peace, along with an invitation to consider your own unique life, the people you are connected to, and how you can intentionally cultivate more joy and peace in your daily rhythms. And so I share 2 practices of each little section. So the first one is like joy with the Lord and ways that you can practice your proximity with him, and then consideration of him, thinking about Jesus and thinking of the reality of him being fully God and fully human, and being able to sit in that experience and notice what that's landing like for in our body. And then there's a section of who am I? How does the Lord see me? And when I can see how the Lord sees me, when I am in situations that normally trigger me, can I picture what that version of me would do in those situations? And it's almost like future planning. I think I called it future practice. Yeah, I called it future practice in this resource. And so looking at this and being able to envision the grounded version of ourselves in those situations, and doing these practices actually do help us to bring out that new creation that the Lord designed us to be. And then I invite us to take it slow, to have periods of time where we dedicate to notice and appreciate, and then to go back and recall those previous appreciation moments. So there are so many moments that we can miss that we don't even realize. There was one earlier this week, I forgot what it was, but I was on my phone and in the room with my kids, and I ended up putting my phone down. And within that moment, my youngest did like the cutest thing ever, and he was laughing and his whole face lit up. And I just remember going like, I could have missed this moment being on my phone. And mind you, like as a mom, sometimes we do have to be on our phone. Sometimes we're putting in the Amazon order or we're putting in a grocery order. So I'm not shaming anyone, or maybe sometimes we are scrolling and we're doing something. But I am just saying, like, the more of our life that we can intentionally take time to notice what's around us and be in the present moment, and also practice appreciation of that moment. So savoring the senses, savoring the faces around us, the more moments we're going to have to recall. And then the more moments we recall and we form, like Jim Wilder said, the more that we're actually going to start scanning for the good. We're going to want to create and to have more of those joy and peaceful experiences. It's just the way that God designed our brain. And then we go into the people circle, like I told you guys about before, that we had in our resource last week that my dear friend Lisa created. That is helping us to see that there's nothing like complete joy when we are at peace and harmony with each other. Joy bonds form over gladness to be together. The more joy we experience, the more we become the truest version of our new creation the Lord has for us. And so I provide some rhythms that could be very helpful, like creating and playing together, enjoying a meal or a cup of coffee together, singing and praise, and also shared appreciation. So not just having appreciation in our own experiences, but then also experiencing appreciation and sharing appreciation that we have for one another. I have a friend who shared with me from the Huberman podcast that there was research that was done that it's not just us experiencing appreciation, but also when we receive appreciation from other people, it actually has a greater impact on our body that reduces inflammation and diseases. And isn't that so crazy that we can actually like heal and be a part of a healing process for other people when we share appreciation that we have for them? So very powerful. So if you love your people, share appreciation with them. And then I just have a reminder of consistency, that we want to have these rhythms consistently, that these would be regular anchors in our life, daily, weekly. What are ways that we can increase this, and personally for our own selves? So every person's going to look different and every season's going to look different. And so acknowledging the season that you're in, acknowledging the people that you have in your life, and being able to see, Lord, where can you have me be a vessel of joy and peace for people? And where can I be around people who pour joy and peace into me? And increasing that in our relationship with the Lord is going to help to build a more secure attachment with Him, which will only help us to be who we are meant to be. And so, my friends, this is my last episode with you all as a solo podcaster for the next 4 weeks. I hope that you have a great new year and that you've had a Merry Christmas. And I look forward to seeing you all in the new year. And I hope that you enjoy these podcast episodes just as much as I enjoyed the guest episodes and recording them and spending the lovely time together. And if you've enjoyed these episodes, share them with a friend or two. Thank you so much. And I will see you guys in the new year. Happy New Year. Bye-bye.